Determining if a situation is proportional or non-proportional by looking at a table. Here's a situation, pretty simple one, just somebody renting movies. We're going to look at it and see, is this a proportion or is it a non-proportion? Steve signs up for a membership at Webflix. They charge $2 per movie rental. Determine if this is a proportional or a non-proportional situation. Okay, thing I want you to keep in mind, when we're looking at a table, what we need to look at to determine if it's proportional or not is whether or not it has equivalent fractions. By the time we're done, we're going to have some fractions in this column right here. And over here in the last column, we're going to determine if these fractions are all equal to each other. Like if we had 1/2, 2/4, 3/6, and so on, those are all equal to the same amount. They're all equal to 1/2. That would be a proportion because all the fractions are equal. So let's look at this situation. $2 per movie rental. So he goes in, he says, you know what, I want to sign up for the membership, but I'm not going to rent anything today. So now we're going to look for equivalent fractions. Remember we said for this to be a proportion, we have to have a set of equivalent fractions. So we're going to take our y value, and we're going to make a fraction with it as the numerator and x as the denominator. So for our first fraction, it will simply be 0 over 0. We didn't rent anything, it didn't cost us anything. X and y are both 0. For our next one, it's going to be 2, our y value, over 1, our x value, 2 over 1. Next, we're going to have our y value of 4 sitting on top of our x value of 2. We keep on going. Our next one will be 6 over 3, 8 over 4. Every time simply putting our cost on top as a numerator and our number of videos on bottom as our denominator. Okay, and at the bottom here for this last situation, we're simply going to put y over x. Same thing we did at the top. Now over here, this is like I said at the beginning, this is where we're going to determine if this is proportional or not. We have fractions, but remember our job is to figure out, are they equivalent fractions? So we need to do some division. Now in class, I hope you remember what I said about this first box right here. We have a 0 for a denominator. Okay, that's mathematically impossible. And we talked about that in class, and I'm not going to go into it now because I want to move on. But we skipped that particular row. Cannot have 0 for a denominator. We're going to move on. 2 over 1. That would be 2 divided by 1, which is pretty easy to do. That should be 2. There you go. And remember, K stands for the constant of proportionality. And in class we talked about that means the same thing as scale factor. A scale factor is a number you would multiply by over and over and over. So I'm pretty confident this looks like it's going to be a proportion because we're multiplying by the same number over and over. It's looking like we're going to have a constant, the same number over and over. So for this to be a proportion, the next number we try to get here should be 2. It has to be the same number all the way down. If it's not 2, then we don't have a proportion. So let's check it. 4 divided by 2, well, sure enough, that's 2. So far, this is a proportion. We got to keep going, though. 6 divided by 3, well, that's 2. 8 divided by 4, 2 also. 10 divided by 5, 2. We got the same number every time. That means all of these fractions are equivalent. Each one of them equals 2. We have equivalent fractions. So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that we have a proportion. The two things go hand in hand. If you have equivalent fractions, you have a proportion every time. So y over x equals this right here. We call the constant of proportionality K. And that means it does have a proportion. Now this is a whole lot of work we did here just to figure out if this is a proportion. I want to look at some shortcuts. One thing you can look at to tell just right off if it's a proportion or not are these two boxes right here. When you're renting 0 videos, how much does that cost? It costs $0. For this to be a proportion, both of these numbers have to start at 0. If either one of these had been some other number, 20 or 2 or 1 or 0.6 or anything, then this would not be a proportion. They have to start at 0. So that's one way you can check yourself. If you look on here and this one is 0 and this one is 15, then all this work is really unnecessary. You can tell just from that that this is not going to be a proportion. They both have to start at 0. The next thing you would want to look at is, do both of these columns go up at a constant rate? This one from 0 to 1 increased by 1. And it keeps on going up at that same rate. Every time you go to the next row, you've got one extra video. It's not skipping around. It doesn't go from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 4 and then from 4 to 27 or something like that. It goes up by the same amount every time. Likewise, the cost has to go up by the same amount. Now when I say the same amount, I don't mean the same amount as this number right here. If it goes up by 2 here, it has to go up by 2 here, and here, and here, and so on and so on and so on. So what we have is our X and our Y columns, both of which are starting at 0, and both of which increase at a constant rate. This one constantly increases by the same amount every time, plus 1 every time. This one constantly increases by the same amount every time. It increases by 2 every time. Those couple of things, if you can find that in your table, if you can recognize that, that'll save you from having to do all this fraction stuff over here. X and Y, 0 and 0, constant rate, constant rate. That means it's a proportion. What if this had been 0, 2, 4, 17, 104, 200,000? Would this still be a proportion? No, because it's not going up by the same amount every time. So that's a little something else just to kind of watch out for.